Welcome to the Bullpen Show. I'm Austin Alexander, and today, very fortunate to have the new skipper at Spartanburg Methodist, Tyler Miller, joining the Bullpen Show. And so, Coach, before we get rolling here, I want to welcome you in. How are you today?
Doing well. Thanks for having me.
Well, right here on the cusp of your season cranking up in your first year at the helm of Spartanburg Methodist. I just want to kind of give folks a quick rundown of your resume. Played at Anderson for your dad. We'll talk a little bit about that as we go a little further. At Anderson University, you coached at Carson Newman. You coached at Sumter. Last stop was USC Aiken. And then, of course, now you got the head job at Spartanburg Methodist. Now, one of the things I want, which will kind of lead me right into my first question to you, SMC, if folks haven't followed it very closely, has only had two other head coaches since 1978. So you're only the third hire since a long time ago. As much like, what we've seen the Pittsburgh Steelers do, who are certainly in the process of having to hire now. But SMC hasn't had to do that. Coach Joyce, Lon Joyce, Hall of Famer, got that job in 1978, and he yielded to Coach Tim Wallace in 1992, who just tragically passed away in this last year. Anybody who's followed the Bullpen Show has been able to follow that through a lot of our updates when he was going through his situation, and of course in his passing last spring. So you inherit that situation and quite a legacy, Coach Miller, of just tremendous coaches, Hall of Fame coaches. No pressure, but now you're the guy in charge. What has been what is that like, knowing that legacy precedes you?
I mean, I'm fortunate. I don't even feel like my name should be mentioned with those two. And those are two baseball lifers and two guys that, made a tremendous impact on baseball in this state. And if I had $1 for every time somebody told me the shoes I have to fill, then I might not even need a job. But it's, you welcome it. I think it's, growing up in this state, everybody, Spartanburg Methodist, if you went to play junior college baseball, this is where you came. And, I have a list in the office here somewhere of everybody, all the players that moved on to, play at high level Division I baseball, to professional baseball, the guys that played in the big leagues. And, it's a special place. And the longer I'm here, I'm seeing it more and more, and just what it means to everybody, yourself included. This place is special to a lot of people, and definitely coming into this job and not taking that responsibility lightly.
Well, you're exactly right. It is a super place. I know personally, as a former player and a coach at Spartanburg Methodist, the place is glorious, and will always be a special part in my journey. And now it's part of yours. And so now, in your first year, you're still inside your first full season, first full year, I guess, of being on campus. Tell us what adjustments you've had to make. Some folks may not know, after having a long history of being a junior college, a top tier junior college over all those years, you're now NAIA. So having never coached at the NAIA level yourself, and of course being at a new school, what adjustments have that been, getting to know people on campus, but also getting used to a new ball club?
No, absolutely. I think that's been I spent my first 2 weeks on campus. I was setting up meetings with everybody, right? With admissions, with financial aid, with anybody who was willing to talk to me, just so I could learn how this place operates and what the systems are like. Because we knew as a staff, the better we knew how everybody else operated, the better we could recruit. And ultimately that's what's gonna, produce success on the field. And, for us, I think for me personally, the biggest adjustment was the head coaching responsibilities. And even having grown up around it, I don't think you realize till you're in that position. Sounds crazy, but how little the baseball side actually is. All the administrative work and the eligibility, and what do you do when the professor emails you and tells you this guy's not doing so well or hadn't been to class in 2 weeks, and learning how to handle that. We've been fortunate. I've got a great staff. Colby Stewart, our pitching coach, came to us from East Tennessee State, and he's a young guy just like myself, and excited for the opportunity. Had a volunteer this fall, Jackson Price, who did a great job for us, and actually over Christmas break took the hitting coach job at USC Sumter. So we're down one, but those two guys helped me tremendously, and getting this thing up off the ground, getting it rolling. And then, as far as the NAIA stuff goes, I mean, none of us are familiar with it. I think, after we go through it for a year, that's really going to help us out in terms of recruiting and what we really need to be looking for. We said it when we got here, baseball is baseball. And, the same things win games at the lowest levels all the way up to the big leagues. So as far as what we're coaching and what we're trying to do, I don't feel like that's really changed much anywhere I've been. We're still trying to establish the fundamentals of the game and how we play. And that's been a big point of emphasis throughout the fall and then now leading into the season.
Now you open up this weekend. You've gotten past having to learn all the names, where everybody's from, kind of getting to know the individuals on your team, and then of course you got to assess their skill sets and who plays where, and basically what you're going to run out there to start with. As you kind of look into your crystal ball of the 26th season, what do you see with the 26 Pioneers?
We hope to see us be competitive. It's definitely talking to other coaches in our league and people in the area that have been around this league for a while. We're going to be challenged, but that you accept that, you want that. We want to be in a competitive league, and our goal going into the season is we're not putting on we win this many games or that many games. Our focus has been is we're really trying to establish ourselves and coming into a new league, not many people knowing what we're going to do. It's really putting a good foot forward and, hey, we're here to compete. We're going to play the game the right way. We're going to play hard, right? We're going to have some class and when we step on that field, but we're there to compete and we're there to beat you. And I think for us in year one, establishing that across the league and like I said, just who we are and what we're about, I think that's really important for us. Like I said, I don't want to sit here and say, we're going to win 40 games. I would love to win 40 games, but we'll take them day by day. And like I said, just every day go out there and try to give our team the best chance to win.
Well, obviously you're sitting here days away from opening up, but you're always having to continue to make sure that the next wave of guys are on the way in through recruiting. You've done a tremendous job in this state for a long time in identifying players from South Carolina. And a lot of people are going to be listening to this right now that may be interested in playing for you and playing at Spartanburg Methodist College. I just want to give you the opportunity at this point to tell folks, for kids that are looking and parents who have kids that are looking for places to play and are trying to go through the landscape of the recruiting process, why is SMC a good spot, and why is that a good place for them to further their career after they're finished in high school?
Well, I think the big thing is you just said it's coming out of high school, right? I think as much as the landscape of college baseball has changed in the last, 5 to 8 years. I mean, it's changed a lot since I got into coaching and since I played. It's our biggest thing right now. We're a new NAIA program. Obviously, the junior college success is second to none, but we're really trying to establish a new wave of NAIA. And for us, that's, yes, everybody wants to sign the 23-year-old who's got a ton of experience. But for us, we look at it as, you know, we're not in a boat where we're going to be able to sign a ton of transfers, right? We're not. So we're really trying to build this thing from the ground up. And so for the high school players out there, we've opportunities there. And I think those opportunities are limited as much now as they've ever been for those players. And so we're all about getting those guys in the program, developing them, teaching them the game, teaching them how we go about our business, the day-to-day things that we do that are going to make us successful. And, when we bring recruits in to the office, I tell everybody, I'm not a salesman. I've never have been. I love telling you what we're about. I'm of an old school approach. I grew up in an old school dugout. We're going to talk as much about how we do things, how we go about our business, and how we approach every single day, as much as we're going to talk about how you hit a breaking ball or how you do this on defense, right? So I think a lot of it stems from that. That's really the foundation of our program is how we go about our business. And, we're going to work. We're going to, when we get on the field, my one thing, we're going to play hard. And that's just something that was instilled in me at a young age. All those things that take zero talent to do. We can get on and off the field. We can run down the line hard. We can slide in the second, breaking up too hard. It doesn't matter how fast you are, how hard you throw, how far you can hit a baseball. We can do things the right way. And that's what we're really about. I say I'm not a salesman because to me, that's the spill I give to every recruit. When we give that, if you leave this office and you're fired up about it and you believe in our coaching staff and you believe in Spartanburg Methodist and you believe in what we're trying to do, then you're going to be on board. And when we get those guys, we know we're getting the right type of player. And then ultimately down the road, that's when success is really going to come. right? Because
Right.
again, to me, success comes from having the right people, and that's what it's all about.
Well, Coach Miller, you're not the first Coach Miller that's come along. Some may know, may not know. You're a third generation college baseball coach. Your grandfather, a longtime head coach at, and I think his number is retired at Gardner Webb. Your dad, longtime head coach at Anderson University, where you played, and now, of course, you come along. You mentioned earlier, growing up in the dugout and being instilled, certain characteristics and traits that good ball players have, and different teams should also have. Kind of tell us a little about what it's like growing up in a coaching lineage like yours. I guess being the third one, that's about all you've known growing up. Tell us a little bit about that. First with your grandfather, and then of course with your dad as well.
No, I consider myself lucky. This, like you said, this is what I know. This is all I know. Remember growing up, long days at the ballpark, going to practice after elementary school and just hanging out at the field all day. And, late nights riding on the vans as the bat boy. But this is what I know. And, I think growing up in it, it definitely taught me a lot. I definitely feel like even now I look at the game a little bit differently than maybe somebody who didn't grow up with my background. It's like I said, it's special. I think the pros are, especially now, like my dad's on speed dial, right? It's if I've got a question, if I've got a problem, it's hey, what do you do now? So, he's always there for advice. Unfortunately, my granddad passed away when I was young. I remember him, but I really never knew the baseball side of him. But even now I run into people who either played with him or coached against him, and they put the connection together, and the stories they can tell are amazing. I come to work every day, both their numbers I keep written in my hat. That's just kind of my reminder every day that hey, this is more than me, and this is, there's a what you would call it, but there's something that comes with the last name, and that's something I try to live up to every day.
Well, you mentioned the influence that they had. If you could talk a little bit further about some other influences maybe that you had growing up, maybe it were players that your dad coached, maybe some guys that you emulated. Baseball's been a part of your pedigree from the very beginning, so obviously grown up in the game. But who are some other influences, maybe in addition to your dad, that helped you as a player, and of course who have been mentors for you as a coach?
Absolutely. And it's, I think maybe being the son of a coach, I always went to practice. I actually had this conversation with my dad over Christmas break, and it was, I could probably go back and tell you from high school on all the coaches I've played for and something I learned from them, right? It's, I listened to everything they said. I can remember there's still things growing up in Anderson, Clemson area, Jack Leggett was the name. And I used to go to the camps, and there's still things to this day that I say to my infielders that I know I heard Coach Leggett say at his camps. And, that was a big influence, growing up around my dad's players, those guys that I thought all those guys were going to the big leagues when I was young. I thought all those guys were the best thing that, those guys walked on water for me. And I definitely, I tried to emulate some of them. I tried to be like them. I tried to do what they could do. And it's cool now looking back after having played there and looking through the record books and seeing my name there with some of those guys, right? That's, because like I said, when I was 7 and 8 years old, I thought all those guys were, those guys were that's what I wanted to be. So, those guys, all those guys in that dugout definitely played an influence on my life and my playing career. And then, moving on, fortunate to have been a part of some really good programs. So starting at Carson Newman, Coach Griffin taught me a lot. And it was cool for me because the only program up to that point that I knew was Anderson. I only knew one way how to do things. And I picked probably the most polar opposite program to go to. It was a very different style, but it taught me that there's more than one way to do it, and you can be successful in a lot of different ways. And I learned a ton there. And then Coach Medlin at USC Sumter, he gave me an opportunity when I was 24 years old to come in, and that's when I really started to learn the recruiting side of it, right? And he was great for my development as a coach because he gave me freedom like I'd never had to go recruit, to go sign guys that we thought can help us down the road. And he helped me learn how to run practice. He let me plan practice at 24 years old, and I don't know many. coaches that are letting their assistants do that. But I learned the art, if you want to call it, the art of plan and practice and how you're going to accomplish what you need to accomplish and help things run smoothly. That was huge for me because he gave me control of the offense. I learned how to run the offense. I learned a ton from him and more so from trial and error. Like he allowed me to fail. He allowed me to learn from what I'd done, and that was big for me. And, Coach Holder at USC Aiken gave me again, I was still young, considering the level of play that was, but he gave me the opportunity to come in and be the recruiting coordinator there. Feel like I took what I learned at Sumter and it just went to a little bit bigger scale. And, instead of just recruiting South Carolina guys all the time, it turned into okay, like we got to cover some more states, we got to cover some more ground because if we're going to be competitive, we gotta find the best players we can. And I was fortunate to spend 4 years there, learned a ton, and ultimately that's all those I say it all the time, all those experiences from growing up to playing to coaching, all those experiences are what make you who you are. I think you take things you like from every program you've been a part of or every coach you hear speak, you take something and you take what you like, you get rid of what you don't, and you kind of make it yours. That's really what's kinda led us to this point.
And one of the things you mentioned earlier, just all the different hats you've got to wear as a coach, not just, filling out a lineup card and rolling the balls out and showing up at practice and games. Those are the fun part, right? It is very demanding away
Yes.
from actually what other people see at the field. But when you do get away from baseball, what are some other things that you enjoy? I guess, what are some hobbies you may have, Coach?
I've got a couple. It's limited. This obviously takes a lot of the time, but one of my big ones, I love to play golf. Started playing golf at a young age, and I think most former baseball players, if they've gotten into it, will agree that that still gives you that competitiveness. And even while coaching's competitive, there's something different about being in control of it. And I love it because that's my fix. Like that's where I get that competitiveness again. And it doesn't even have to be, it doesn't have to be a tournament. It doesn't have to be I can go out there and I know my best score is this and I'm going to go compete against myself today. And it still gives you that fire. My more relaxing hobby, I would say I'm a big deer hunter. That's something I love to do throughout the fall. It's quiet, put the phone away for a little bit. Of course, now this past fall I sat in the stand. I just thought about lineups all the time and how many different ways we could make this work. So maybe not as relaxing as it used to be, but it's still that's one of my it's my getaway. That's my quiet time where I can, like I said, shut everything off and just think for a little bit.
Well, Coach, just so folks can get to know you a little bit more away from the field as well, I'm just going to kind of go down a little bit of a list of favorites, things that you enjoy. And we'll just start with something pretty simple. What's your favorite kind of food? And have you found a really good place that you enjoy in Spartanburg?
I do like Italian food. That's kind of my go-to. After, move out of parents' house, I had to learn to cook a little bit. So one of my big ones is lasagna. That's my go-to that I make at the house. The place in Spartanburg that I go, actually, one of my former teammates he lives in Spartanburg. Trevor Wiesner, he's the head coach at Union County High School. But he and I get together about once a week and go to dinner, and usually it's Venus Pie, which is pizza place, kind of like a New York style pizza. That's usually our go-to spots. But I'm still venturing out. Hadn't been here long enough. Probably need to venture out and try some new places.
So there's a place right down the road. It's the Spartanburg Institution. Far from Italian food. Have you been to the Beacon yet?
I have been to the Beacon. Yes. Yes, that's a
For anybody that's listening, if you're passing through Spartanburg, if you haven't hit the Beacon yet, that's a different experience. Make sure you do. Favorite kind of music? Do you listen to music? What's your favorite?
I do. It's a variety. I'd say favorites, the classic rock. Our BP playlist is going to be a lot of Leonard Skinner, a lot of Creedence Clearwater Revival. That's maybe you might even classify it as that old country rock, but that's usually the go-to.
Strong stuff. When you get a chance to watch TV, what do you like? And if sports wise, what do you like? And then non sports.
Sports wise, baseball is number one. I love watching big league. It sounds great. I actually rather watch big league baseball on TV than college baseball. What those guys are able to do from a skill set standpoint, it's impressive to me. And I love watching big league baseball, keeping up with that. I do watch golf. Love tuning in for the major championships, especially on a Sunday. If you're not playing that day, it's fun to watch those guys on the back nine and in contention and seeing how those guys operate under pressure. And, But outside of the sports, baseball and golf, landman's been my big one recently. That's kind of the new one out. That one's got me. So, of course, we got to wait for the new season to come out now. So I'll have to find something else to watch until then.
Any other sports you enjoy? Do you play ping pong? Do you bowl? Do you like to shoot baskets? Anything else outside of baseball?
Not a whole lot. Maybe for fun. We did have a ping pong table in our house growing up. So having a younger brother, we're 2 years apart, that ping pong got competitive. There might have been a few punches thrown at some point over ping pong, but that's definitely just recreational for fun sort of thing.
Well, before we wind down, Coach, I just want to give you an opportunity. Obviously, a lot of people have come across your path and been part of your journey to where you are now. Anybody in particular, or any several people in particular, that you'd like to give some shout outs to?
I think I mentioned them all in this. I mean, all the coaches that gave me an opportunity to coach, that's what's led me to this point. That's where I learned. That's where it's turned me into who I am today. So all those coaches that gave me an opportunity are special to me. All the players I've had the opportunity to coach. I mean, that's what this is about. It's about the players and, the relationships you've built, even now seeing guys that I've coached become husbands, become fathers. I heard it growing up, but it starts to make a little more sense now. And, the relationship you have with your current players versus your former players is definitely different. And that's been a cool experience for me. So those guys are special. And then, one person I do want to mention that definitely is in the shadows is give a shout out to my mom. And I'd say this about any coach's wife, or it's a tough business to be in, and we're a lot of times tough people to be around because of the hours we work, the emotions that come with it, and for lack of better words, our happiness being dependent upon 18 to 22-year-olds and how they perform that for any given day. And it's not an easy environment to be around and live in. And my mom basically raised us. That's part of growing up and coaching. Dad's not always there. He's on the road recruiting. He's at a game. He's at practice. She was responsible for getting me to all those practices and making sure I had what I needed. Like I said, it gets overlooked a lot, and that's definitely one of the downsides to growing up in a coaching family. But we're definitely, we're nothing without that backbone. So I definitely want to give a shout out to her and any other coaches' wives out there that know what I'm talking about, because it's hard to explain until you've been in it.
Well said. Well, you're sitting in an office that two icons sat in before you. You were the perfect person, are the perfect person for that job. Those are two men that I grew up, I don't want to say idolizing, but certainly wanting to emulate. Don Joyce and Tim Wallace, very close with both those guys, who passed away in a matter of 4 or 5 years apart. But two special people, and a third is following those two. As a former alumni, as a person who really, really cares about that program and that school, I just want to speak for a lot of the alumni. Since you've gotten the job, we appreciate you pulling us in, keeping us involved, wanting to keep us involved with what's going on with the 26 Pioneers and beyond. The school, the athletic director did a great job, and they got the right guy. So I just want to, from my heart, my blue heart, I still bleed SMC. I just want to thank you for the job you've done so far, and certainly wish you the best of luck going into this 26th season, but certainly far beyond that. You've got a legion of former Pioneers that are here to want to help you in any way that we can. So before we completely finish here, I just want to kind of give you the floor one last time. Is there anything left unsaid, or anything that you would like to say to folks out there before we wrap?
Come see us. Roll ears.
That's right. Well, Coach, I appreciate it. And before we roll here, I just want to, we've got the pro day. I mean, it's actually the Lon Joyce Pro Day coming up this weekend. Is January 1st at River Bluff on Saturday at River Bluff High School. Some of the top players across our state are going to be there. There'll be, typically, if history serves, if the weather, works with us here, we'll have usually between, 75 and 100 pro scouts that will be in attendance. It's a beautiful day. You'll just sit and watch some of the top players across the state. So if you're a baseball fan, you're listening to this at this point in this broadcast, and you're doing nothing on Saturday, or you want to see some good ball and the weather is decent, come on out. Admission is free. Be a good chance to see some good high school players. But if you're looking for college baseball, SMC's they're opening up on Friday. They play throughout the weekend. There's a lot of Division II and junior college baseball opening up these next 2 or 3 weeks before Division I cranks up as well. So baseball season is here. We look forward to seeing everybody who's listening to us right now out at a ballpark at some point. Hopefully the weather cooperates. We look forward to seeing what these coaches and all these players have in store for this upcoming baseball season. For Tyler Miller, I'm Austin Alexander. I want to thank everybody for joining us for this version of the Bullpen Show.